Did you know that only 0.4 of Australians own more than 3 investment properties? And the other number of people, which is the 99.6% of Australian investors that own less than 3 investment properties, unfortunately do not live a life by living off their property portfolio that's going to help them, support them, and give them the life that they truly deserve. There's a reason why a lot of people don't succeed in investing in property, and the statistics don't lie. If 0.4% of Australian investors own 3 or more investment properties, it shows you the odds of you becoming a successful property investor. Now, I'm not here to say you can't do it, but I'm here to teach you so you can understand what makes a successful property investor that can purchase 3 or more investment properties. Unfortunately, people do not have the life they deserve. They do not have the income that is being produced from their property portfolio. It's giving them a passive income that's helping them replace their work income or wage income, so then they can actually, retire early and live off the property portfolio and give their family the life that they deserve, and more importantly, themselves. So today I'm going to talk about what you need to know and what you are going to understand or makes a successful property investor. So let's talk about one of our clients. And, I want to talk about a client, how a 27-year-old purchased 2 properties in the space of 6 months using the tantalizing trio strategy. Now, it's super important to know and understand, take a lot of tips from this video because you're going to learn a lot here. Anthony is age 27. He lives in Melbourne. He makes $65,000 a year, okay, average wage. He still lives at home with his parents, so he's quite young. Still lives at home with his parents. But at the time when he came to us, he had a borrowing cap of $600,000. Now, I asked him a lot of things. He came to me, and I'm not going to tell you about the beginning of the story because I'll touch on that towards the end. But when I started asking him, I go, what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve through property? He couldn't answer that. I go, what's your passive income goal? He didn't have a clue. I go, when do you want to retire? He wasn't quite sure. I go, how many properties does that look like if you do want to retire so you can live a life on your terms and give your family the life that they deserve? He wasn't sure. I go, what do you want to achieve in 20 years from now besides property? He wasn't sure. I go, how are we going to achieve these goals if you don't have any goals? And he goes, I don't know. And so we put a plan in place. And it was super important because this plan is a 10-year personalized roadmap that we've created that gives you a roadmap that gives you the clarity to helping you achieve your goals that are tailored to your personal situation. Now, everyone's got different goals and ambitions. Everyone's got different financial situations and different outcomes. But you need a goal to get to where you need to go. If you're wanting to drive from, say, Melbourne all the way to Cairns, how are you going to get there? You need a plan where you're staying, because it's not going to be a one stop show. You're going to have to stop multiple times because you can't make it there all the way in one go. You're going to have to stop. You're going to have to reassess. You're going to have to reevaluate. You're going to stop some places and you're going to wait there for a while. Maybe you might stop somewhere and you might like it and you stay for a little bit longer. Same goes with property. You might have a kid, you might get married, you might want to go overseas, and this plan will stop. But you need a plan to know where you're going, how much passive income your goal is going to be, what you're trying to achieve. Are you going to try and buy the family home, dream home, through your property portfolio? So this is what we got crystal clear with him. Now, when we had this in place, we knew what we had to do. We knew what sort of properties we had to achieve so it can help him with his borrowing capacity, so it can help him keep moving forward so he didn't get stuck. So the very first purchase we purchased for Anthony was a $275,000 house, which is, people look at it, it's unbelievable. And we purchased this house for $275,000, 800 square meter block, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, two car spots. And we purchased in March 2021, 7.1% yield, which is unbelievable. Over $6,000 a year puts in his pocket, interest only, 10% deposit. It cost him just over $45,000 as a deposit, including stamps, LMI, legal fees. Now, you can see this property's got side access. It's a little bit of older property, but he's got the opportunity to do a renovation to this property. He's in a really good position with this property. Now, it's already a year gone past. We're in March 2022. We revalued this property. And this property is worth over $350,000. We've got a valuation done, which has grown 25% in a year. Over $70,000 of equity he gets to use. Okay, his ROI, his return on investment, which is the equity that he's gained in a year, the cash flow that he's made in a year, which is the $6,000, and so you got $70,000 of equity that he's made, and the $6,000 that he's made in cash flow. That property has given an ROI, return on investment, of 166%. And how we calculate that is the money he's initially invested. And so, which is unbelievable. Now, if you look at his cash on cash return, which is this money, this 13%, the money that he's generating per annum from this property through the cash flow, through the rental income, after all expenses are being paid. And mind you, this is property paying for itself. It's paying for its mortgage fees. It's paying for its rates, its sewage. It's paying for its management fees, and it's paying for its insurance. That's the leftover money that he's getting. So he's getting a leftover of $6,000 a year. That money, if we do our calculations, divide it and times it by 100, go back, he's making a 13% cash on cash return. So that's like an income coming off. So, if you put your money in a term deposit, you want to get a return on investment. So if you put $50,000 in a term deposit, at the moment, let's say you put, $45,000 in a term deposit at a bank, you're lucky to get even 1% return. Or look at it like this. He's put $45,000 into this house as a deposit. He's getting $6,000 plus a year after all expenses. So it's giving him a 13% cash on cash return, which you look at, it's pretty crazy. So he's getting cash flow, but not only that, he's grown in equity. Now, Anthony's going to be using this property, this equity here, the $70,000 to purchase number 3. But let's go on to number 2. So he purchased the number 1 and 2 with his own deposit. We purchased this at $350, September 2022. 6.2% yield, over $6,000 of positive cash flow after all expenses, interest only again, 10% deposit, costing just under $60,000. So it's a beautiful home again. This one's on a 650 square meter block, 3 bedroom, 1 car, 1 bathroom. So you can see it's nice and neat and tidy. The current value right now after 6 months, the property is worth $390,000. It has grown 10% already. $60,000 you put down, it's got $40,000 equity. Now, we can't release this equity, and we're not going to because it hasn't grown enough. So we have to wait a little bit more so until that property can grow a little bit more of that, an extra 10%, so then we can release that equity and go again. But it's grown, it's putting over $6,000 a year. So if you look at his ROI, his return on investment, which is the $40,000 plus the $6,000 divided by his the money that he's outlaid, then times by 100, that's going to give him a 78% return on investment. And if we look at his cash on cash return, which is the income he's getting, he's put $60,000, just under $60,000 to put down on this property. He's generating over $6,000 a year. That's giving a 10% return on his cash on cash return. So he's in a really good position here. Now, Anthony, he's doing quite well, and now he's generating over $12,000 per annum from both of these properties. The properties, his cash on cash return has increased. It's 23%. So the money that he's outlaid, that $104,000 that he's outlaid for both of those properties as deposits, it's giving him a return of investment of cash on cash return of 23%. So, and how I'm getting that is because he's already generating $12,000 a year of cash flow from these properties after that $104,000 he's outlaid. He's got that $77,000 roughly, over $70,000, $77,000 it's coming up to be, of equity they can release, and which is going to be about $50,000 after 80% LMI. So we stop there and we don't have to use the LMI. So we're going to take about $50,000, which is going to help to get to the next purchase. So, and this is going to help him get another property at around the $350,000 mark. That's going to help him build the life that he deserves. He's going to be in the top 0.4% of Australian investors that own 3 or more investment properties. And the reason why is because he's put a plan in place and he's understanding now the game of finance, which we've taught him, and we'll put a plan in place. We've kept him accountable. We've given him the support. And so this is going to help him achieve those goals. Now, I want to talk about why I became a buyer's agent. Now, my name's Frank Ambezi. I'm the director or co-founder and director of Fresh Start Advisory. And the reason why I became a buyer's agent is because I got burnt. I went to a seminar. I was learning, educating myself before I jumped into real estate. I wanted to know and understand what it took to become a successful real estate investor. So I was going to seminars after seminars after seminars. learning so much and then getting taken down to so many different avenues. And this is where I made a mistake. During those mistakes, I signed up with one of these firms that was selling off the plan townhouses. Now, at this point in time, I didn't know much better because I was getting so much information and I made a lot of mistakes. And these mistakes have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when I was in this pain, I wanted to realize, how can I help people build a property portfolio that's going to give them the life and the choices that they deserve? How can I help them make it easy with little to no risk that won't affect their lifestyle and that will be scalable? Now, it took me a lot of time, but I ended up here, and now today I'm trying to help people and inspire people to invest the right way, the safe way, which is the most important thing. So I bought this townhouse in the CBD metro of Melbourne back in 2019. I paid $495, and its current value today in 2022 is only $510,000. Hasn't grown in value. From day one, this property is costing me negative over $9,000. So I have to outlay every year over $9,000 to pay for all the outgoings because the rent does not cover this property. It's a 3.5% yield property, and it hasn't grown in value, and it's not going to help me, get into the next property. It's actually holding me back. And unfortunately, I made a lot of mistakes, but these mistakes taught me what not to do. And what happened was I bought another one off this firm. And this is when I realized how much of a mistake I made. I purchased the same thing, Melbourne Metro CBD, 2020. I purchased this. I paid $490 off the plan. Townhouse here. When it came to value, it came out value at $440. So what happened was that this property, that extra $50,000, because it came below settlement value, I had to come up with an extra $50,000 that just went to the bank. Didn't go towards the property. And what happened was I lost that $50,000 like that for a blink of an eye. At the time, I didn't even have that $50,000. I had to scrounge for, off my parents to get this money. And, they couldn't even give me that money at that point in time. But it was either I lose my 10% deposit on this property and, wipe my hands clean, or my parents gave me that deposit. And lucky my parents helped me out here. But now I'm still in debt. I'm in a bad position at this point, at that point in time. And so that property at this current point has only grown, not that much from what it's been valued. So it's only valued at $520 at the moment. I'm in a position where I really can't do anything with this property. It hasn't grown in value. And not just that, it's costing me over nearly $6,000 a year in expenses. So if you look at that, I've got about over $15,000 of expenses coming out from my own personal income to help pay for these properties. They're negative geared. They haven't grown much in value. They're holding me back with my borrowing capacity. And there's a whole bunch of other things that come with it. They might be new and not much things go wrong with the property, but there's a whole bunch of expenses involved. And not just that, the properties haven't grown. So I can't actually use any of this equity to go out and get into the next property. But from there, I've improved my property portfolio. But that gave me that was the catalyst for why people should not go through this. Why people should have the right advice from the right people that will help them build the life that they deserve. So let's keep going because I don't want to bore you guys too much. But when Anthony came to us, he nearly bought this investment property here, and I want to put it here. He came to us and he wanted to buy this investment property in Fawkner, 16 kilometers north of Melbourne CBD. At the time, it was worth $600,000, and this was in 2020, November 2020. I said to Anthony, what's this property? What's this property got wrong with it? Has it got anything wrong with it? Has it got asbestos? These properties here at this point in time had a lot of asbestos, these certain age of property. I go, does it have any asbestos? I go, what's the weekly income? I go, how much is it going to cost you to hold this property if you buy it as an investment? I go, how much is it going to cost you to hold it as an investment, rent it out, and what, if you're borrowing this at your maximum borrowing capacity, are you going to be able to borrow another, any more after this is purchased, or are you going to be stuck? You're going to be stuck where you can't buy for a number of years. I go, you're going to have to ask yourself these questions. I go, do the calculations, get the rates, get the water, get all the management fees, get all the costs involved of what it will cost you to hold this property. So he went back and done his homework. Now, at this point in time, he was going to go in principal and interest and purchase this property and just rent it out. And he was going to live in it because he was going to get the home buyer's grant, and he was going to use that as a strategy so he didn't have to pay stamp duty. But when he done all the analysis on this property, he come back to me and he goes, Frank, this property is yielding 3.5%. It's only rent out for $410 per week. Now, I've put interest only and principal and interest, but he was going on a principal interest, which was going to cost him over $11,000 a year to hold the property. He was putting down a 10% deposit, a little bit more than a little bit more than 10%. He put $101,000 as a deposit, plus other fees as well involved, solicitor fees and mortgage fees, etc. So you straight away you see this property, it's negative geared dramatically. Now, I'll show you right now that the property has done quite well. In the space of 12 months, grow 22.5%, which is amazing. It's valued at $735,000. But if we look at it, the equity gain is $135,000, which is unbelievable. But it's, if we look at the property, it's negative. It's negative 11% cash on cash return. Now, I've made a mistake here. This should be $11,000. If we go back to here, $11,000, because he put what was going on in principal and interest. And, it's negative 11%. So it's costing him a lot of money to hold this property. His cash on cash return is quite phenomenal. His return on investment. But he's stuck at a point where, he's not going to be able to service the loan, and it's going to hold him back for a number of years. And that's not going to help him moving forward. So by using the strategy we gave him, that was tailored to his personal situation, it's helped him get to number 3 in as little as, now 12 months, he's gone for number 3, which is unbelievable. Now, how is Anthony able to still borrow money from the banks? This is the number one question I get asked. He has a personalized plan that's tailored to his personal situation. So it helps him not get capped. We know what values we have to go in. We know what yields we need to go in at. Why? Because high yielding properties help with your borrowing capacity. A high yielding property, can change the borrowing capacity nearly up to $80,000 to $100,000 depending on the yield. So this is super important, understanding that. That extra income of that property is actually adding to his personal income. So his personal income, if you recall, he was making $65,000 a year. But because he was making an extra $12,000 from those properties, after all the expenses, an extra $12,000 adds to his $65,000. Now his income's gone up to $77,000. Even though he's got debt, his income is increasing as well. So his access to credit starts to get a little bit more it still stays flexible. He's bought properties that are in high growth areas that are growing in value. Now he's releasing that equity, and that's going to help him get into the next property. And it helps lower his LVR, his loan to value ratio. So he's using that high growth properties as an advantage to release that equity, and then he can take that equity, which he's doing with number 1, which is going to buy number 3 into the space of 12 months. Now that extra income, like I said, adds to his personal income. Now, option to add value. He's got the option. Now those properties, not brand new. And look, there's some of those properties right there. One of them's 20 years old and the other one's 10 years old. But he's got the opportunity to actually do a renovation to the property, upgrade the property, and that's going to increase the equity and the cash flow. So he's got the opportunity to force appreciate this property, which we call it adding value. And the last one is he didn't max out his borrowing capacity from the very beginning and just buy one asset. If you bought just one asset, you got one thing growing for you, one income coming, and one asset's growing in equity. But now he's got 2, which he's going to go for his third property, which it shows how powerful this strategy is, and it works. The tantalizing trio strategy is a thing of 3 parts: high yield properties, high growth areas, value add. Very simple. We don't target anything less than a 6% yield because that's our bread and butter. We're in high growth areas, getting double-digit growth for our clients, and then we've got the opportunity to add value. We call this the insurance policy. Why I call this an insurance? Because if something happens to the property, if something happens to the market, you've got the opportunity to add value to the property. So we're always targeting cosmetic renovations, always targeting, depending as well on the client's needs, small renovations, but not just that, building on the land. So if you want to do a development in the future, subdivision, or adding a granny flat, these things give you the opportunity to do something in these markets, in these times of when times get tough. So this is something that you look in the future. We're not looking at just in the short term. We're looking long term, helping you minimize the risk when it comes to building a successful property portfolio. That's the most important thing: minimizing your risk. You minimize your risk, you will gain so much more. So I want to invite you to get to the next part of this video, and it's going to invite you to get these free things that I want to offer you because you made it here to the very end. Something that we don't offer this to anyone at all, but today, because you're here watching this video, there's only a limited amount of spots left, and we want to offer you something that's going to be life-changing. Now, nothing to sell here. If you feel like, you want to take advantage of this, get these free things. And then if you feel like this is something not for you, that's okay. You can walk away. But you're going to be getting a free 2-hour free strategy session, which is going to be broken up in 1-hour blocks. Okay. Now you're going to find what your vision and mission statement is, what your goal is, what you're trying to achieve. You're going to find your purpose. That's the point of this call as well. So we're going to help you find your purpose, what you're wanting to achieve. Without that, you're just, you're floating in the dark. So this is going to be super impactful for you, something that no one ever does. Okay, you're going to get access to our top 10 free videos educating you about property fundamentals, about how to identify a hotspot, how to understand data, and what makes a successful property investor. These are things that we don't get talk about. That people do not talk about. It's going to help you become the better investor that you need to become. You're going to get a free 10-year property portfolio plan session. Okay, this is going to get tailored to your personal situation, understanding what you are, where you are at your financial situation, what you need to do moving forward, helping you achieve the goals moving forward. Okay, by doing so, it gives you clarity, gives you a roadmap. And that's the last one, roadmap. That's the most important thing. You need a roadmap. So by doing this, doing this session, it's going to give you a roadmap to achieving your goals and the clarity that you need to get there. Okay, so this is something important. A lot of people don't take this in consideration. You can have this 2-hour free consultation with us, and you can walk away with all these goodies if you feel it's not a good fit. But you will see the value. And the most important thing is that we give you support. We give you the accountability, and we give you back your time to helping you accelerate your property portfolio so you can become a successful property investor that's going to be in the 0.4% of Australian investors. So take action, get your session with Fresh Start Advisory. We will help you, we'll give you the roadmap, the clarity to helping you achieve your goals.